Before I became the blues harmonica teacher you see before you today, I was a guitarist. In fact, I started teaching myself to play guitar when I was 15 years old. And part of that journey was trying to learn music theory by reading several really thick volumes about it. I had absolutely no idea what I was reading or what it meant. And I was scared, I was overwhelmed, and I started to feel that music theory wasn't actually a useful addition to my life. Over the years after that, I gradually learned bits of music theory here and there by working with other musicians, learning songs, and following YouTube lessons. After a while, I started to realize that music theory wasn't A, as complex as I initially thought, and B, I didn't need to know very much. In fact, I just needed to know enough theory to be dangerous. Now, I teach my students music theory without them even realizing it, right from day one. I teach them just enough to make life easier for them, but not so much as to be confusing. In this video, I want to address some of the regular concerns that I hear from my students about learning theory and why they think they shouldn't learn theory. So, first main concern, blues harmonica is fundamentally about expression and feeling that can only come from emotion and life experience. Now, I absolutely agree with that, but it's very difficult to express yourself like you want to if you don't know what to play. Theory is just a shortcut to knowing what works in what contexts. Now, what I did there that was relatively interesting on this A harmonica in second position in the key of E is I played a 6th draw over the 5 chord. And the reason that that's a great note to hit over the 5 chord is it's the 5th degree of that chord. And that means that when you go to the 5 chord in bar 9 and you hit that 6th draw, it makes it really sing and really follow the chord change. And that 6th draw doesn't follow any of the other chords, so that's a really great note to throw in there. Next big problem that students have is thinking that harmonica is appealing because it is simple, and theory can be intimidating for beginners and it discourages them from continuing to learn to play. And I totally agree that the harmonica is in fact small and unintimidating, and that leads to a lot of people thinking that it will be simple to learn how to play. And I would argue that it is very easy to get started on harmonica. It's cheap, it's portable, and it can sound pretty cool with a limited amount of technique. But if you want to go a little bit further than this and start to play some bluesy licks with your friends who play in a band, then knowing just a little bit of theory is going to make it so much easier. Okay, so to be able to play that, I needed to know that the song was in the key of A, and I needed to know that I wanted to play a D harmonica in second position. I also needed to know what the chord progression was, a 12-bar blues chord progression. And all the riffs that I was playing followed that chord progression. So knowing what the 3 chords were and knowing what arpeggios made up those chords made it so much easier to learn how to play crossroad blues. Now, the next problem that a lot of beginners have with learning music theory is the idea that many great players have learnt by experimenting and improvising, which led to them being more creative and developing a personal style. And that's absolutely true. But it's so much easier if you know what you're doing. I think a lot of students think that great blues players are breaking the rules of music left, right, and center, and that's simply not true. You might accidentally stumble on something that sounds great, but knowing the rules will help you find it so much more quickly. For every great player who doesn't know music theory, there are a bunch more who do. And knowing the theory gets you there so much quicker than trying to discover it by accident. That was a clip from the awesome David Barrett. If you want to watch the full thing, just click on the link in the description below. Now, the next problem that beginners have with learning music theory is the idea that it can box musicians into certain patterns and rules which stifle their creativity. And the most important aspect of playing blues harp is passion, feeling, and connecting with your audience. And this is probably the most common complaint about learning music theory. i.e., I'm not going to be able to play outside of this box that I've learned. And in reality, that's a little bit like saying that owning a map will stop you from exploring. The map just shows you some possible paths. And you can decide which path to take, you can pick your mode of transportation, and you can even choose to take a detour. Now on harmonica, there are 38 notes on that little 10-hole instrument, and you can play those in 12 different keys. Okay, go, be creative. That's kind of a lot to take on, isn't it? It's pretty overwhelming. But if you limit yourself, for example, to just the notes in the blues scale, that box, in one key, it's a lot less overwhelming, and you can be a lot more creative. Now, I was playing notes from the blues scale in second position on an A harmonica. So I was playing in the correct key for the backing track, which was in the key of E. And apart from that, I was free to be creative and emotive. So please, 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 don't be scared of learning just enough music theory to be dangerous. Click up here to learn your first 12-bar blues. And if you want to learn about music theory for harmonica, check out the course that we just made with Sandy Weltman. Click on the link in the description below. All right, take it easy. Happy harping.